I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I'm running as an independent candidate for President of the United States. I grew up in an America that seemed to have achieved its promise as an exemplary nation. Modern democracy had spread from one nation, ours, in 1776 to six by 1865, and
this motherfucker can't be president, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't think I can listen to that fucking voice for 4 years, my man. We can't elect fucking Principal McVicker from fucking Beavis and Butthead, dude. I'm sorry, you know, you can have the best ideas in the world and shit, but I can't stand listening to this guy talk like this all the time. It's me. I'm sorry if that's ableist. I know he's got a condition, and I feel bad for saying it. Wow, wow, boo, fuckity who. But at the end of the day, I can't help it. I am ableist, and I like a motherfucker that can talk. I like a man with a big, strong, booming voice that can say, "Hey, America, it's me, your president."
90 by the 1960s. We had become the city on the hill. We were a moral authority around the globe.
You say we were an oral authority? We were an oral authority around the globe. We knew how to suck a fucking dick.
Our government, institutions, our Congress, the court, the regulatory agencies, and even the American press were renowned for their integrity, and they were revered worldwide.
Or it was just because it was pre-internet and people couldn't mass communicate as easily, so the wool was more easily pulled over our eyes. Could be that too.
Other nations wanted our American leadership. They knew the difference between leadership and bullying, which is something our current leaders seem to have forgotten. We were the template of liberty, proof that for a country to thrive, its people must be free. Free to speak, free to worship, free to build great companies, free to start small businesses. We were the freest country in the world, and by no coincidence, also the most prosperous. Working Americans,
this is so vague,
could provide for their families on a single salary. They could buy a home, raise a family, save for retirement without mountains of debt.
True.
We made the best music. We made the best movies. We made gold standard art.
I mean, don't we still? Like, I mean, I know the competition has gotten less stiff around the globe, but like, I don't know, like all the popular music still seems to be predominantly American. You know, I mean, it's all a matter of taste. I don't happen to like a lot of modern music, but it's not like I'm listening to some shit out of fucking like, you know, Belgium or something like, oh yeah, this is where it's at now. It's not like some other country has taken the music throne. What the fuck are you doing back there, Corn Pop? Why are you haunting this video, bro? Don't do it. That can't support your weight, Corn Pop. No. Don't do it, bro. Don't do it. It can't support your weight, Corn Pop. No. No! Corn Pop, no! It's one long fucking cat, bro. Look at the length of that motherfucker. Hey, if you like this clip, you might like the full stream, which I do every Sunday, more or less, over on the Pessimist Productions Patreon, link down below. Thank you kindly.
Automobiles that everybody in the world wanted. We made blue jeans. We reconstructed Europe.
Do we not still make blue jeans? I mean, I guess like a lot of clothing manufacturing has moved overseas.
We put men on the moon. We're the world's healthiest, best educated children. Our productivity, ingenuity, our Man,
I feel like some of this shit does need to be fact checked. Because I don't know. I mean, it's really easy to just sell people the idea of some golden era when everything was great. But like, I mean, I don't know, really most of American history has been rife with conflict and turmoil, hasn't it? Like, you know, the 30s and 40s was fucking World War. The fucking 50s was a time of like huge economic expansion. And for a lot of people, things were great. I mean, wasn't so great for the kind of people we're looking at on the screen right now. But I guess for some people, it was a prosperous time in America. The 60s was Vietnam and turmoil and fucking riots all over the place. 70s, I mean, just watch a movie from the 70s. That shit was like a crime-drenched fucking nightmare. The economy was in the toilet. The 80s, we started to lurch towards theocracy. The 90s were kind of nice. 90s weren't too bad. Not a lot of economic turmoil in the 90s. Not a lot of global turmoil in the 90s. A little bit. I mean, no era is perfect. Then, like, the 2000s, everything went to shit. 9/11 pretty much ushered that shit in. And ever since then, it's been an authoritarian nightmare, and our presidents keep getting dumber and dumber.
Uncle President Kennedy left us a legacy of peace and the hope of ending the arms race and winding down the Cold War.
I mean, did he really leave us a legacy of peace? I mean, there was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and then he was assassinated, and then MLK was assassinated, and then your own father was assassinated. Like, it was a time of extraordinary turmoil in the country. And wasn't Vietnam still raging when Kennedy was shot too? Like, the f are we talking about here? That's not true.
Those were the traditions of freedom, prosperity, and peace that my father, my uncle, and Martin Luther King Jr. were striving to protect and advance. And
yeah, I mean, they were striving for it, maybe, arguably, but like, they didn't get it. It never happened.
a half century since their deaths, we've lost touch with that vision for our country. And I want to tell you right now that we can still restore that America, the America that almost was.
I mean, was it the America that almost was, or was it the America that was? Because if we're just talking about like a grand vision of America that certain people aspired to, but it never actually manifested, then like, okay, cool. But if we're talking about like this America happened, it was in our grasp, it was right there. I don't really agree with that.
And yet, maybe. But we have to start by being honest with ourselves.
All right, let's be honest with ourselves.
Neither my uncle nor my father would recognize the version of America that we have today.
Oh my God, America is different more than half a century later, you guys. No. It's like, come on, yeah. It's changed. And, you know, in some ways for the worse, in some ways for the better. I mean, we're not mired in a fucking Vietnam-esque conflict right now. We're not mired in a Cuban Missile Crisis-esque conflict right now. There are still, like, racial issues that plague this country, but they're pretty tame compared to the ones that were going on in the fucking 1960s. So, like, by a lot of metrics, America's better now than it was then. Now, of course, there are still, like, divisions and stuff, obviously.
We become a nation of chronic illness, of violence, of loneliness, depression, and division, and poverty.
Okay, hold on. I gotta pull up a statistic real quick. Here is violent crime from the 1960s to today. So, yes, it is much higher than it was in the 60s. But it is much lower than it was at its peak in the early 90s, like 1991, 92. You had really bad violent crime rate. It's much lower now, but I guess it is more violent than the 60s, so you got to give them that. But I think it kind of is a little bit narratively dishonest to act like crime has like been perpetually rising since the 60s, when the truth is that it rose to a crescendo and then has been in decline since then.
Our great cities are becoming tent encampments, modern-day Hoovervilles filled with undocumented immigrants and dispossessed Americans and people living in their cars, plagued by mental illness and addiction and despair.
I want to hear your solution.
Border has come under the control of criminal drug cartels that traffic in desolation and fentanyl. And
then legalize all drugs. Legalize and regulate drugs. That would solve it. Like, you could put the cartels out of business tomorrow.
Busloads of desperate human beings. Our children are drowning in a crisis of alienation, of dispossession, and complete disconnection from their communities. We've lost far more.
Well, not really. They're just part of a broader global community, which, you know, in some ways is bad. Like, I think that people really probably should try and strive to be more connected to their, like, immediate surrounding area and be connected into local politics and local community events and stuff. But I don't think that people have no sense of community. I think people feel a sense of community on a global scale now because of social media. I want to make it clear that, like, it's not like I disagree with every word that's coming out of this guy's mouth or anything. It's just like I want to hear the solutions. Like, I feel like we all know what problems are plaguing this country. Like, no one's going to deny that it's bad that people are overdosing on fentanyl and suicide rates are up and, you know, homelessness is up and stuff like that. But I want to know what the fuck your plan is to deal with it. I'm hoping I'm going to get that in this video, not just like, here's a litany of our problems. I want to know the fucking solutions that you propose.
And in the 20-year Vietnam War, we've printed 9 centuries worth of money in a little over a decade and spent $8 trillion on.
What does that mean? 9 centuries worth of money in a decade. Well, who are you to determine what 9 centuries of money looks like, or what number that would be?
On regime change wars. Those wars have made America less safe, our country less strong, and the world far less stable, while sending prices through the roof as our infrastructure falls apart. Tens of millions of young Americans no longer even dream of owning their own home. What happened to America, the land of opportunity, where you could be sure that if you worked hard and played by the rules, that you would have a decent life?
We stopped taxing the rich people at a even somewhat reasonable tax rate. We can't afford any sort of like good social programs. The rules that apply to everybody else don't apply to the super rich. They own the politicians, and they pretty much pass whatever legislation advantages them and do everything they can to keep working people down. That's the problem. And if your answer is anything other than just like, hey, it's time to fucking tax the out of the rich and get their money out of politics, then like, I don't care, because that's the solution.
All the new wealth of the last generation has gone to the billionaires and to transnational corporations, while our tattered middle class, our infrastructure, our industry have been hollowed out from the inside.
Truth.
Instead of promise, we've left our kids sick and drowning in debt. The public debt has gone from about $5 trillion under President George W. Bush to $34 trillion today, and U.S. household debt is at a record high of $17.3 trillion. If you include discouraged workers, our true unemployment rate is 23%. Young parents face housing, grocery, and childcare costs that are unaffordable. Too many Americans.
All right, cool. Solve it then. You've established the problems. Tell me the solutions. I'm ready. I'm primed. I'm ready to agree with you, dude. I really am. I have a few little caveats with what you said here and there, but for the most part, I feel like you're identifying the problems that I would say are the fucking major issues in this country. But I want to know your solutions. Lay it on me, man. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Americans are living bleak and hopeless lives, dreading the
I mean, that's what we do here. This is abandoned hope, my man.
one medical emergency or the car repair that will tip them over the edge into homelessness. We rank 40th globally in our people's health and wellness. Out of the richest countries in the world, the United States is 35th in child poverty rates, just above Mexico. We rank 36th in literacy and 45th in press freedom. We have one of the highest cancer rates in the world, and our life expectancy now ranks 59th, according to the World Bank. That's right behind Algeria, which spends less than 1/30th per capita of what we spend.
Oh, God. Oh, it's getting too real. I'm getting a little emotional about it. You're making me mad, dude. Give me solutions.
But even these grim figures hide the full picture of our dire health crisis.
Oh, no, don't do this to me.
We now have the worst health outcomes in the rich world, the highest maternal mortality rates, the highest number of gun deaths per capita, and the highest number of teen pregnancies. We lead the world in obesity and chronic disease. According to CDC, 60% of Americans have at least one chronic condition. When my uncle was president, only 6% of Americans had chronic disease. And all of these plights fall heaviest on our young people. 4 in 10 of them suffer depression, and half of them have...
Which is completely fucking rational given the... Like, I always think it's so crazy. They're like, what's the reason for this depression? Why are people depressed? And then it's like, see the fucking last fucking 5 minutes and 47 seconds of it. That's why people are fucking depressed. Because it's fucking terrible. He's really milking his uncle. I mean, what else? I mean, what else has he got, dude? His last name is fucking Kennedy. That's like the big selling point of this motherfucker.
Considered suicide. 1 in 10 has anxiety. 1 in 10 has ADHD. 1 in 5 is obese. It's time for us to say
I'm a lot of those. I'm several of those motherfucking things.
Enough is enough. We were once a free and thriving nation, the healthiest and strongest in the world. What we once were, we can be again.
See, I hate the way he's oscillating between this past America as like a potential America that like almost was and an America that actually was. Because I don't think this America he's talking about ever actually was. I think that in many ways things have been better in the past, and in many ways things have been worse in the past. It's not this simple like used to be good, now bad.
How do I know that? It's because
I'm old as fuck, and I watched it happen.
Everywhere I go in this country, I see a profound determination among Americans to heal. We might have become the sickest country on earth, but we also have the most ingenious healers.
Oh my God. Are we really gonna do this? This is the solution to our health problems, of fucking laying down on a fucking blanket while a dude beats a cloth drum? You're not serious, are you? Like, this is really what we're gonna, this is the idea? Like, this will fix our healthcare issues? Boom, boom, boom. Oh, boom, boom.
Both inside and outside conventional medicine.
Oh my God, dude. I hate when you do this. I hate when you do this.
We may have sky-high levels of depression and addiction, but we also have innovators who have opened up new frontiers in recovery.
Yeah, well then how come it hasn't done jack shit? Maybe having innovators isn't good. Maybe we need better fucking public policy on that, huh? Like, you're running for president, why don't you propose some?
We have some of the world's most depleted agricultural soils, but also some of the world's most innovative and energetic regenerative farmers. We have serious
See, this dude is basically just a right-wing hippie. That's the problem here. This dude doesn't have real solutions to any of this shit. He can identify the problems, but his solution is like, we just need, like, healers, man, and, like, regenerative farmers, man. We gotta get Big Pharma out of there and just fucking chant with some incense and bang a gong, bro.
economic problems, but we also have the brightest and most ambitious entrepreneurs. We face hunger and homelessness, and yet
we have some of the greediest piece of shit entrepreneurs, is what you mean. Our entrepreneurs are the reason our country is so fucked right now.
Meet it with the highest philanthropic rates in the world. And
it's not working. It's not working. Having high philanthropic rates is great. It maybe says something nice about the national character. But the fact is, it hasn't solved the problem, because you need a systemic solution, not a bunch of little Band-Aids.
Bottomless kindness and compassion. We may be on the mat today, but we can be on our feet and happy and healthy and strong again.
Well, give me some fucking policies, bro. I'm very sick of you not having policies. Lay some fucking policies on me fucking now, or I'm about to get pissed at you.
Good leadership tomorrow. Our people and our system were built for resilience. And here's the most important thing I want to tell you about the state of our union. Okay. Our nation seems more divided than ever, but Americans everywhere want to heal that divide. Our nation...
No, I think a lot of Americans do not want to heal that divide. A lot of Americans relish that divide. A lot of Americans want civil war and talk about it in glowing terms, like they just can't wait to go out and shoot their fellow Americans.
Has become artificially divided by political forces that can survive only when we, the people, are at war with each other.
Fucking people. Rams.
We're tired of being manipulated by fear.
Clear your throat, dude. What the fuck? He has a fucking condition, okay? You know how he was talking earlier about how, 60% of Americans have chronic conditions. He has a chronic condition that makes him talk like that.
We learned that lesson during COVID. We recognize that the same techniques of manipulating fear are being used by elites today to corral us into voting for one political candidate or the other. Americans are tired of
Dude, that's like been the status quo since the inception. Maybe not since the very inception, but very early on, we became a two-party system where, yeah, they use issues against each other. Like, that's not some kind of profound fucking statement.
These dire warnings that to preserve democracy itself, you better vote for our guy. I can tell you that in every state of this union, people are rejecting fear-mongering. 80% of Americans say they don't want to be forced to choose in this election between the lesser of two evils.
Then why didn't they go vote in the primaries for someone who wasn't evil? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we have a whole ass primary process where Americans can go and nominate someone who's not evil. But instead, we got Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So something's fucking broken more fundamentally than, like, if 80% of the electorate is like, we don't want these fucks, and yet these are the fucks anyway, then something's deeply fucking wrong.
They're tired of voting against something or someone. I see it in the crowds of mixed Republicans and Democrats and independents who attend my rallies, that a growing number of Americans are rejecting divisiveness. They're ready to unite, to rebuild this country, and to fulfill the promise of the America of my youth. They're ready to vote for something, and for someone they like, for someone who represents hope and healing, or someone with an inspiring vision for America's future, for a future that they can believe in. So that's the State of the Union that I want to bring you today. It's a nation that hungers to heal. It's a nation ready to face reality, to rebuild, to end the forever foreign wars, to clean out the corrupt Washington establishment, and to turn again toward peace, freedom, good health, and prosperity. When we unite in that vision, we're going to be unstoppable. Thank you, and God bless you.
Identifying the problems. Pretty good. Pretty good. Soaring rhetoric. Check. Policy positions. 0. He didn't name one fucking policy. I'm not that impressed by a guy who can spout off a litany of the problems. Because we all know what the fucking problems are. Saying, here's the problems. And then being like, man, these problems sure do suck, huh, guys? But you know what? We can fucking overcome. I'm like, okay, how do we do that? And then it's just like, I don't know, vote for me, I guess. We'll figure it out later. It's like, okay, cool. So, yeah. Pretty fucking useless. Thanks, bud.